falling. Clutch, guaranteed to come through. Clutch, you're always reliable. Clutch, follow through on every play. Clutch, all station we're in good hands. Clutch, not shaking with clutch and pressure situations. Clutch, 23 Jordan. Clutch, championship occasion. The new best audio show is now in your ears, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural edition of Overall with Andrew Jones. I am the aforementioned Andrew Jones, not the one from the Atlanta Braves because he spells his name with a U, or the Andrew Jones that's a Texas basketball incredible story. But this Andrew Jones, dedicated to giving you the quintessential audio show, podcast, or radio that you were here, people. So can I get an example of that? Yes, indeed. And whether you like sports or not, music or not, entertainment or not, you will get the most fun show. And no, there is no not on that last statement, because it is truly all the way, as Charles Barkley would say, guaranteed. Indeed. Now, in this final week of March 2022, we thought the madness would just be from the still unpaid NCAA tournaments on both the women's and men's field. But after Tom Brady announced his unretirement on Selection Sunday, the unpaid college hoop scene took a back seat to a little thing that happened called the slap around the world at the still low-rated Oscars. And while almost every show or person that you know had endless takes on it, my live overall Monday show focused on some idiotic, hypocritical tweets. I had my co-host for most of the shows, Vince Sayers, chiming in, as well as quality 617 New England individuals, Lucas Gaynor and Ralph Mentor, in this fun discussion. May you kindly take a listen to that. Here's what Chris Rock said with that joke in 2016.
What happened this year? What happened? People went mad. You know, Spike got mad, and Shelton got mad, and Jada went mad, and Will went mad. Everybody went mad. You know, it's quite like Jada got mad. Jada says she's not coming, protesting. I'm like, is she on a TV show? Jada's gonna boycott the Oscars. Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited. Oh, that's not an invitation I would turn down.
All right, so that was the whole moment in 2016. And this is why at least a bit of me first feels, conflict about this. Because Chris Rock's from Bed-Stuy here in Brooklyn. From Bed-Stuy all the way. Proud about being from Bed-Stuy and whatnot. And I've always, despite some problematic moments that Chris Rock may have had in regards to stuff, particularly towards some white women in the past with that, it's something where I've at least been someone who supported him for the large majority of his whole career with that. And of course, we know that Will Smith being West Philadelphia, born and raised like he is with that. So it's a true 2 hours difference from Brooklyn to Philly. That bond from Philly to Brooklyn, part of this Northeast corridor, is just that real. It's just that real. So it's that whole appreciation of both of them. It's to the point where I'm not one of those people, and partly in the black community, that may seem or may feel that Will Smith has been soft throughout the years, according with that. I don't rock with that whatsoever, because Will Smith, despite him being a whole well-celebrated actor and having his television show in the way that it did his popularity, I know Will Smith is still about some West Philadelphia tendencies when need be. Now, how Will Smith should have handled this in the better way was when he had that whole speech to be able, because he had an hour when this happened and was allowed to stay in the building. He had an hour before they announced the Best Actor award winner to be able to probably get a joke from somebody. Will's a naturally funny guy here and there himself. and he could have went off on Chris Rock on stage, and that would have been so great. Well, you wouldn't have the likes of Mia Farrow and Judd Apatow and Brittney Mahomes, and we're gonna get into that in a few minutes, saying their nonsense on Twitter and embarrassing themselves over that. But he could have went and wanted to do just that. But without a doubt, though, his whole thing, as he said in his whole acceptance speech last night in channeling Richard Williams, was trying to defend his whole family with that. And that is something that he told Chris Rock directly, keep my wife's name out of your mouth previously, and he didn't. And it proceeded to happen that way like it did. Vince, you want to say something before we bring Lucas in on this?
I will say this though. I mean, it's fun to have this controversy because what happened last night, and social media is just crazy because they're acting like they didn't see a slap before.
For real.
You never saw a slap before. Like, I mean, I can slap myself right now, but it's all good.
We're not condoning that, and I'll make sure if somebody did that, I'll be on them to F them up right there for you, man. For real. But keep on going, as you say it.
But no, it's just like, we need a controversy. I know all the social media and all the network were probably talking about that. Was this real? Was it not real? I'm sure you were in Clubhouse, Andrew, were talking about that. I know everyone was on Clubhouse social media talking about that. Was it real? Was it not real? But no, I mean, when I saw this, I'm like, damn. I don't know if anyone watches the. I don't know how many people watched the Oscar last night, but I know Twitter was overreacting with that. But no,
slightly above from last year, but still low ratings though.
Wow, so we needed something to talk about, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, it was a big shock. But then again, if somebody said something about your wife, I mean, I guess you probably do the same thing as well. I mean, I know I would. I'd be like, I'll do probably worse than Will Smith, but
hey,
but that's just me. But yeah. What was your thought, Lucas?
We're gonna bring the good sir Lucas Gaynor in for the first time this week in overall. Let's give him a round of applause. The vendor that he is with it. Before we get into the major ways with that in terms of these ridiculous ass tweets, Lucas.
Thank you. I just want to say that I heard that basically pre-show Chris Rock made the joke in the rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
Will told him that he didn't like it. And then for Chris to proceed and do the joke, I think, I can understand where Will's coming from. I'm not saying it was the exact right handling of the situation, but I'm with Vince. People act like they've never seen somebody get slapped before. Now, given the circumstance, I understand at the Oscars, it's a much bigger deal. But I think it was funny. I think Chris Rock took the slap like a champion. I'm not going to lie. Handled it pretty well, and it just made for a great night on Twitter. Well, that's an all-time Twitter night, in my opinion, Andrew. So that's really all I have to say about it. I enjoyed the fireworks.
It was indeed an all-time Twitter night, no doubt about it. And to the point that you had Griffey Jake Paul wanting to give $30 million to, I guess, Will Smith and both of them for this whole entire, occasion. But the thing, but the thing that made it, because that was already problematic enough with that. It was the fact that you had Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, who looks like he's been eating a little bit at the pandemic in the last few months, because I've never seen Sean Combs get like that. He was almost getting as big as Suge Knight in terms of at least his size with that. Let's just say he wasn't in shape to run a marathon anytime soon like he has in the past. Apparently, he was the one to try to help a whole kumbaya, or what he was trying to allege at this whole Oscars event last night, to say that they were going to have a kumbaya moment between Will and between Chris Rock with that. And this man is saying this in terms of his whole history. He just had, sadly, 25-year anniversary track thing that went down or whatnot, that he was embroiled in with that. And the whole irony of him proceeding to think that he was going to be a full peacemaker in this situation, considering the level of toxicity that Diddy has had throughout his whole career with that right now. He gets the first person to write "Loser on the Town of the Day." But
he deserves that for sure.
But he won't get even the biggest of that right now, because we owe it right now to the point where it is time to really, really bring in the Vince Lombardi right now for this one. Because I had alluded up to this point about the reactions and the reactions that we saw on Twitter. And we saw certain reactions to the point that we saw from certain people who really, really, you would think, would just want to steer far away from this. You had all the other options. You had Coda winning. You had Janina Bose winning and her whole big thing. You had all these other options to go to tweet about. You could have tweeted about Questlove in the Summer of Soul. You could have tweeted about Lucia Harris and the Queen of Basketball. But no, these people wanted to do what made Vince Lombardi have to come down from heaven and say the first of this week.
What the hell's going on out here?
Because we decided to have something. First, let us skip the non-sports people away. First, we had Judd Apatow, who, one of those people who acted like he never, ever saw any level of physical conflict in his whole entire life. And Judd Apatow proceeded to try to go on this whole entire Twitter feed, in which he deleted the damn tweet about it. But Judd Apatow was so outraged by what Will Smith went and did, despite a lot of the problematic movies that Judd Apatow has had in the whole past. And he proceeded to try to go ahead and say this, quote, he could have killed him. That's pure out of control rage and violence. They heard a million jokes about them in the last 3 decades. They're not freshmen in the world of Hollywood and comedy. He lost his mind. That is what Judd Apatow went and said on Twitter last night in response to right when that happened. And for that moment, Judd Apatow, Charlie Murphy has this reply from you up above. Oh my goodness gracious. That is what this man went and decided to say in utter nonsense. But that's only the number 3 most ridiculous white prominent response of last night. Because there are 2 more. Because then we had, out of nowhere, Mia Farrow decided to come on Twitter. And Mia Farrow was outraged by what she saw of this West Philadelphia to Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn violence on stage. And she went and decided to give her horrified response and wanted to say this in terms of her reaction and to give a whole impression that a whole moment of historical just awfulness took place. She said, Oscar's ugliest moment. Oh, and then she tried to go ahead and say it was just a joke. Jokes are what Chris Rock does. Always has been edgy. This was a mild joke for him. And I love G.I. Jane. Oh my goodness. Mia.
I just want to say, as if the ugliest moment in Oscars history, as if Harvey Weinstein doesn't have 81 Oscars.
Hey, I mean, we were gonna allude to that. But not only with that, Lucas, because Mia Farrow, she may or may not know someone by the name of Woody Allen.
Oh my God.
Of Woody Allen. And you, Mia Farrow, are going to tweet that right there. And not just understand that maybe someone's going to mention Woody Allen. Oh my goodness. To the point, Vince.
What the hell's going on out here?
It was so baffling. It was so baffling indeed. But since this is a sports show, we have to prioritize this one. Because this one was the creme de la creme. And to the point where I had to say to myself that I was flat out wrong about something. Because out of nowhere, we had newly married Brittney Mahomes, the wife of Patrick Mahomes, the previously I guess, most expensive contract in NFL history, only to be top in terms of last week, Deshaun Watson with that. But we had Brittney Mahomes come out of nowhere and decide to say, I mean, I'm just laughing about it right now. I'm laughing about it right now. Now, for those, the reason why I would laugh about this, listening on the Clubhouse side and not familiar with this in terms of playback or whatnot, in terms of why Brittney Mahomes is going to make us laugh with her whole Karen Light moment of tweet, is because, and first she says, in terms of the tweet, like, don't slap anyone, or let me get the exact tweet right in terms of it, because it was 4 letters, and she put dots on there, and then also put a whole hand emoji there at the same time. And I don't know if she's deleted this tweet or whatnot, but I'm going to check it out right now before we have some funny reactions towards this, all right? But this is what Brittney, Lynn, Matthews, Mahomes went and decided this week. Yep, you don't slap someone. And then followed up with eye emojis afterwards. Now, the reason why this is already a whole thing, besides her saying the obvious thing that anyone could say right there in terms of any condemnation about this, is that during the NFL this season, in a game with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I forgot which team it was with that. I can get it in a second with it.
Washington football team?
Yeah, I think it was that one.
There we go. Keep going.
Yep, it was that one. With it, actually, it was a win. It was actually in the playoffs. It was against the Bills. It was against the Bills.
Oh no!
It was against the Bills. Brittney Mahomes was tired of some Bills fans just being Bills fans and being rowdy like Bills Mafia is. And Brittney Mahomes proceeded with a few of the other people around her that were part of the Chiefs' legion of elite whole wags, in terms of wives, girlfriends, or just whole family of Chiefs players. And she proceeded to decide, because she was so annoyed with them, to pour champagne on them. She poured champagne on these fans.
Shaking my head.
She decided to do that, and clearly getting caught on video with those fans looking up at her pouring the champagne on them.
So in other words, she likes attention.
Not only does she like attention, but she's a nutty hypocrite, doing crazy ass things like that, and yet trying to have public condemnation on someone else in regards to their moment of high price possible insanity with that. I used to defend Brittney Mahomes because sometimes I felt that there was a lot of criticism in regards to it being unfair, in regards to getting at her a little too much, where people would get into her and Patrick Mahomes' business in regards to their love with each other, because it's legit love. They've been together since high school. But this is something where after that, and after how annoying she can be in regards to fan reactions with that, and how that reputation hasn't gone down despite many people trying to probably say to her, could you tone this down, with her and her brother-in-law, the worst TikTok dancing personality in the history of all social media, including TikTok's predecessor Vine. It is something right there where I can just no longer defend her whatsoever. To the point, she gets not just one, not just two, not three, not four, but 5. Price is Right, losing horns right now. Your thoughts right now on Brittney Mahomes and Pete Carrollness?
So I just want to say, so Judd Apatow, hey man, Chris Rock was never gonna die, man. That's just the most ridiculous thing to say.
This is the inaugural edition of Overall with Andrew Jones on the Believe Network. And it's also the inaugural edition of UNC and Duke facing each other in the NCAA tournament. So cue those proverbial Luther Vandross March Madness sounds. Indeed. And we had some incredible discussions on this UNC Duke matchup with one fan from the North Carolina side, one fan from the Duke side, and the quality stories that they had to share. So listen to UNC fan Sonny Harris and Duke fan Dr. Priya tell their stories about the Chapel Hill rivalry. In particular, Dr. Priya's very interesting story of how Christian Laettner has many stories of being such an asshole on campus.
My experiences with Coach K are him coming and visiting us in Shashevskyville and buying pizza for everyone as we're camped out to watch games. And
All right.
I actually know some of the players from when I was in school because some of my friends were dating them. I lived on Central Campus where a lot of them used to hang out. So, um, hearing from them firsthand the types of lessons that Coach K instilled in people. And really, until Elton Brand, to build an entire program where you did not have people leaving to go pro so quickly. And that's a whole other discussion, right? About paying play athletes and all of those things. But the emphasis that he put on making sure that his players had some sort of functional skills, right? After the game. Chris Collins and I were in the same dorm together, right?
Get out of here, really?
Yeah, Jeff Capel.
Chris Collins and I are buddies. I'm friends with a lot of Duke players, and
Yeah.
I still hate Coach K. And my history with him goes way back further than yours. And I was a Duke fan still when I was a freshman. Everybody's not jealous. I got into Duke early admission. I chose to go to Carolina. So,
Yeah, I was joking.
you know,
I was joking there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's that I just think this is, I mean, obviously I'm going to be rooting for Duke. I would always root for Duke. But in this particular instance, what an amazing send-off that would be for Coach K, not only to beat Carolina in the Final Four, but then to take the tournament. That would be an amazing cap. Although, to be clear, I don't think it's required, right? I think it's an accomplishment that he made it to the finals of the ACC in his last year. I think it's an accomplishment. I mean, I think everything this man has done shows that he is an accomplished coach, regardless of what you think about his personality, right? So, I mean, I think there's some, if I had one criticism of Coach K, it's that he allowed, because in hindsight I look back at this and I'm like, we were horrible, meaning we in general as Duke students, to players, right? So if I had one criticism of him, it would be that he never really, very rarely did he criticize Duke fans. He did when people did really crazy egregious things, but there were certain things that he definitely could have done, right? I don't remember who we were playing, but I remember there was a story about a basketball player who was supposedly having an affair with the assistant coach of that team, of their own team, the opposing team, and the coach's name was something Ford. And I remember every time that player went up to shoot a free throw, we chanted, "How's Mrs. Ford?" And people had giant signs that said things like, I don't remember the player's name, but it was like, whatever the player's name is, have you driven a Ford lately? I mean, that's just so egregious and horrible. And I'm like, why were we allowed to get away with that? Right. So if I had one criticism of him, it would be that. I mean, I'm sure there are other things. Nobody is a perfect human being. And I don't think anybody gets to a position of power without being an asshole. Like, let's be honest. Right. I don't think you can say that any coach is just nice all the time. But yeah, I'm a Duke fan. I'll be a Duke fan till the day that I die.
That's real. That is real right there to the point. First, we have to give Dr. Priya the round of applause for that whole story and that real fandom with that, as well as also that moment of Duke fandom that has been long stories with it. And we have to give an O sound with that because that was low blow with that in a major way. And about the CanMNT crazies, that is just how real they keep it with that route. Before we come back to you, man, on the green room side with that, Dr. Priya, who for you, did you know Steve Wojnarowski, or did you know at the time before Elton Brand got there, who were good people that were just good Duke players towards you or your friends that y'all knew back then?
So I sort of knew Wojo, not really well. I knew, and when I say I knew, like, I doubt they would remember me at this point. But Jeff Capel dated a friend of mine for quite some time when
You
we were.
friends with Kanika? Kanika and I grew up together. Like our
No,
parents
Hey.
were friends.
I knew he had dated Kanika, but it was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Who I don't know if she wants me to share if she was, so I won't do that. But we used to see, so on Central Campus, like, by the time I was a second or third year, they had changed one of the buildings on Central to the Kudzu Tavern, which is basically just like a place you could hang out and play pool and eat and things. And my friends and I would go there all the time. And Grant Hill would come there a lot. And I mean, he was just one of the nicest, most polite, just really, really nice people, right? Like the opposite of Christian Laettner, right? So one of my roommates one year was a swimmer, and she would come home sometimes from swim practice, and I'd be like, you left 20 minutes ago, how could practice be over? She'd be like, oh, the pool's closed, the Laettners are using the pool. So
Oh, Christian Laettner. That ain't. Oh, come on,
yeah,
Christian.
that guy was a dick. Like he was the dick that everybody thought he was. um but yeah, I mean, Grant Hill was just one of the kindest, nicest, most polite people on the planet. He wasn't, I those were sort of the people that I knew the best. Chris Collins.
Mhm.
I So this was when I was a freshman in college. I knew nothing about basketball. I didn't care about basketball at all. And I remember sitting down and I was watching something in the dorm room on the dorm room TV, and he came down and I didn't know who he was at the time, and he was super polite, and he's like, I'm so sorry to bother you, I know you've been sitting here before me, I'm just wondering, would you mind, I'm in this psych class and my professor is being interviewed and I'd really love to see it, I'm really interested in this field, would you mind if I just watch this one interview, and then as soon as it's over I'll get out of your hair? And I was like, that, I mean, he never made it seem like like, I just never had that feel from any of the basketball players that I ever ran into. They never
Mhm.
acted that way to me. That's not to say they might not have done, I mean, they may have done that with other people, but my brief interactions with the basketball players was always very respectful. It was always, they were always just like regular people who happened to play basketball. I never got the sense, it wasn't like the basketball players showed up to the kudzu and just kind of expected everyone to part ways and give them their seats and any of that stuff. There was no sense of, so I
Yeah.
just never felt that sense of entitlement.
I
So
agree with her.
That.
Grant was one of the classiest. He's very cool. And he used to date Jada Pinkett. And in fact, she was dating him while we were in school. I remember first time I
Oh,
ever
he
saw
did.
her in
Yeah, he did.
person was
Grant
at
Hill
a
did
party
date
at
Jada.
Duke.
yeah,
Huh? Yeah, they dated when she was on what's that show? A Different
On a
World.
different
Mm-hmm.
world. Yup.
Yep. She used to be on campus at parties.
did he meet?
Tony Lang. Tony Lang was really an awesome guy. I do also love Chris Collins. Um, Also Tony Moore, which also came in
Mhm.
with Chris. They're awesome. Yeah.
Who was the
But
guy?
so is Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry's like, Jerry punched Christian Laettner in the face one time in the pros.
Yup.
But
Yup. Yup.
but
Get the get get
Jer-
get the get the boxing bell out for that boy, Sonny. You know,
and even though people think Rashid is crazy, he's not. He is the
he's a great
sweetest
guy.
guy. He is
Mhm.
so sweet. People just they have the total wrong opinion of him. But anyway, we could
It's
go on
funny.
and on. They actually really are good guys. The rivalry is serious though. They really want to beat each other, and they all are really good players. So it's always a good competition.
That
Was
is
there?
spectacular. Oh, go
Was
ahead,
this?
Dr. Priya.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, was this? Did he meet her when they were filming that movie? There was some football movie they were filming on Duke campus. I remember because I met David Justice, who
Oh
dating.
boy,
He was dating
Holly,
Holly.
Holly
I
Berry.
think
Yup.
I think this would have been the year before you came, Dr. Priya, because I think you are a year younger than me, and I'm pretty sure this was my freshman year when they were dating.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So I just remember meeting David Justice. Like, so, like, to talk about entitlement, he was there to see his then girlfriend, Holly Berry, who was in that movie. And I didn't know who he was. This is how I figured out who he was. I was walking to the library on West Campus, and they were filming on West Campus. And there was like a crowd of people around him, including super tall people, i.e. athletes, right? The basketball players. And I asked somebody, why is everyone crowded around this one person? And they were like, oh, that's David Justice. And I was like, who is that? And at the time, I think he played for the Braves, and my brother was a big Braves. Like, oh, I'm going to go get his autograph for my brother. So I just kind of like, because it's me, right? And I don't care, like, if you're a celebrity or whatever, but I waited there patiently for like 20, 25 minutes. But they were still talking, so I just kind of went, excuse me. And people were like really shocked that I'd interrupted a conversation between basketball players and David Justice. And I was like, this is over my head. Like, I don't care. He's a person, and I just want to get an autograph from him. So
That's right.
I just went up and I said, hey, you know, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Could I get your autograph? And he goes, sure. And he starts kind of preening. And then he goes, is this for you? Like really flirtatious. And I went, oh, no, my brother's a big fan. And he just like lost immediate interest, just tossed it at me. Like it was the most hilarious interaction. Like he was so irritated, clearly, that I was not the one who was the fan, that it was my brother.
David Justice is where always is. Because the dude, I mean, and obviously Vince on the green room side knows David Justice in terms of his history of baseball here. I mean, he's just really one of the worst people. And honestly, it's to the point where I'm so glad that Halle Berry is happy nowadays with that, because he literally was just such a negative black hole in her life, and almost really drove her to a whole status point that was unfortunate. And I'm so glad that she got away from him with that. And that story right there, Dr. P, does not sound any way dissimilar towards other problematic stories with that guy. That guy really is one of the worst like guys. And that's why you don't see him on TV, because no one liked him with how much they hold with it. In fact, to the point, him and Christian Laettner, they battle for being assholes all the way. And David just doesn't even go to Duke. That's the crazy thing about it. Recently, I had the pleasure of interviewing track and field superstar and Renaissance man Noah Lyles. Listen to some of the highlights from the many quality quotes and conversation that I had with him, particularly about his words on NFL superstar receiver Tyreek Hill. You have this whole thing where Tyreek Hill and these like darn NFL players outside of DK Metcalf, who came in with respect and humbleness and ran the way and ran impressively for, being like, a whole big man that hadn't run a whole track meet in a while with that. But you got Tyreek Hill, who was great, at least in terms of running in junior, events in track, and, has a legitimate, like, great, like, 200-meter time back then, at least before he decided to just focus on football with that, but not in the area Knighton type or Noah Lyles type around with that. But you got this man trying to think that he's going to want to come and run or whatnot. And the good Sir Trayvon Bromell, as you probably may have saw, had to check that and is saying, hey, set up the race right now. So would you welcome yourself having a whole race with Tyreek Hill to, even humble even more any NFL guys that want to get into the realm?
Man, I'll smack anybody who wants their butt smacked. My opinion is $40K, and when I win, you can pay me $1 million after that. But it won't happen because they too scared. Look, you guys,
scared.
Not just that they scared, they just talk smack at the end of their season. They got nothing to do. They bored. So what do? They just try and compare themselves to be the fastest, because everybody wants to be the fastest in the world, but only the track world knows what real speed is. Of course, they can run a little 40-yard dash, and of course, you had your high school times, but that's cute and all. But you, to be honest, you too big to be moving as fast as we do. All that weight don't fly, bro. And you ain't about to set it up. Nobody else about to set it up. Your agent ain't gonna call none of our agents. I mean, I don't know why you keep doing this every year. Of course, it's to build hype. So to be honest, you guys are just, all football players are just hype chasers until you actually step on the track. And when DK Metcalf, he knew that he was in a different world when he showed up at Mount SIGH. I mean, to be honest, I'm still surprised he showed up on the line, and I got to give respect to that because I remember he was watching. He was there. We were there the day before, and he was doing blocks, and he was watching other people doing blocks. The man didn't have a confident face on after he watched them do blocks. It's something. It's one thing to say. It's one thing to be able to do a 40-yard dash by yourself. No competition next to you. You can focus on yourself. Imagine what it's going to be when you line up with 7 other people who start better than you. They transition better than you. They've been doing this longer than you. That's pressure. And you can't touch them. This ain't football. There ain't no contact. You ain't going to be able to push them. You ain't going to be able to tackle them. You have to accept your defeat in the race.
This boy is spitting right now where I thought she was going to drop the Jermaine Cole line. Your Jermaine Cole line. That shit's going to drop about that with the pressure. Leads to the Diamonds. You can catch that full interview with Noah Lyles on my YouTube page. To those still listening to this show after all this time, I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. This inaugural edition of Overall with Andrew Jones on the Believe Network will close with a celebration for the Canadian men's national team in soccer for qualifying for their first World Cup in almost 4 decades, and with the United States men's national team realistically back into the FIFA World Cup Global Tournament. Here is our reactions towards those 2 big things for both the Canadian men's national team and the United States men's national team in soccer.
Hey, let's go, Andrew.
Look at this newly made USA fan, sir. Oh my goodness, man. Give this man a round of applause for him being a newly made fan. You've been sights. Because before
Andrew, I was grinding. I was on my spin bike. I was sweating.
You was on your spin bike, man. All right.
I saw USA. We're kicking ass, man. We whooped that ass. I mean, hey, I know me and Jody were trolling because we were like, oh, I know Canada would never score like what we were doing right now, laugh out loud. But listen, man, I'm excited. I mean, obviously, I had a blasphemous tweet, obviously, because I was excited because I was like, okay, here we go. USA is going to win the World Cup. Obviously, I don't really mean that. I said it out of excitement. I mean, at least now we're qualified for the World Cup now. We kicked that Panama's ass, and there we go, man. And remember that Tom and Jerry meme?
Mm-hmm.
Tom and Spike and Jerry? There we go, man. We kicked some ass, Andrew, and I love that.
Listen, your enthusiasm is just so great, man.
And Andrew, that was a home game for us. I'm like, damn, okay, let's go.
Oh my goodness, man. You are superb with this all the way with that enthusiasm, sir. That is special with it. First, I gotta give love to those in the neighbors up north, as you were mentioning, Canada, man, because they not only went and qualified for their first World Cup since 1986, they did it in such a fashion, 4-0 over a Jamaica side that may not have been the best Jamaica side, but still Jamaica side that has some talent, and just the whole expectations of Canada expected to now get to their first World Cup after no one thought that, in terms of at least even 2 years ago, and how they not only embraced the pressure, but went and delivered a 4-0 win in Toronto. There was no Aubrey Graham Drake curse this time whatsoever for them, where I have to give them a little bit of the anthem. Shout out to the good sir, Ariel Helwani, celebrating this in the major way today as well. All those in Toronto. This was my focus before all the escapades went down last night. So give it up to Canada. Give it up to our neighbors. Indeed, and doing it without their best player, who's still recovering from the Delta variant over in Germany. Good sir, Alphonso Davies, who was live tweeting on Twitch because he's that type of personality, man, where he literally is just a whole Renaissance man with it. And he was in full tears about it, to the point he had this reaction that was so great that you just don't see from many guys like this at this level because he is truly one of the top 30 players in the world. This guy is really that special. And he had this reaction, sir, where he was in all of the level of tears. And it went down like this.
Man, this man about to cry.
He was just in all the level of emotion because he could not believe that his country.
Can you imagine?
He was even doing that in his parents' Liberian accent because he grew up in Liberia before coming over to at least Vancouver or at least the Edmonton area at age of, I think, 4, if I remember with that. But Alfonso Davies getting on those celebrations with that. And people can listen to the post-game press conference that I was in last night with that all the way. But then you mentioned that certain USA side, and they have a chant, sir, that you would love in terms of I believe that we will win. And to the point that chant was ringing around last night.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
How it goes? And indeed, we went and not only did that, but did it in the style that was required to not have a stressful night in Costa Rica on Wednesday, or at the very least, in terms of at least making sure that even if we lose 5-0 to Costa Rica on Wednesday, that we will still qualify for the World Cup. And when Christian Pulisic went and did this last night, he did it in this way, from the penalty spot. It had a whole level like this.
Third one against Mexico in the Nations League final, under pressure. Has made all 4 of his penalty attempts for the United States, including banging that one top corner in Denver in June. I was in 2011. Only a spot at the World Cup at stake right now. He scores!
And then the man proceeded to do a worm celebration after his second goal. I kid you not. And I had to ask his teammates about it. First, the worm celebration. Hey!
Man, this man went Super Saiyan 3, man. 3 goal hat-trick? Okay, let's go.
And in fact, that third goal, he did it in this incredible style. And man, was it a style that had people saying, Ballon de Pulisic, being the best player in the world maybe in the future? With things like this, he may well do it.
So we'll hook that cross in. Pulisic!
This man went from Christian Pulisic to Christian Pulisic in the way that he did. And when he decided, sir, to go ahead and do that awkward worm dance celebration that he proceeded to do, it was a reaction that I had to ask both Jesus Ferreira and Paul Areola about last night real quick.
Last question to Andrew Jones.
Thank you, Michael. Paul and Jesus, what were your thoughts on Christian's worm dance celebration after he scored the penalty? So your thoughts on and rate his worm dance from a scale of 1 to 10.
I had no idea that was going to happen. So when it happened, I was surprised, but, excited. And he did the warm celebration. So, I rated like a solid 8. Can't give him a 10 because he didn't went back down. But, yeah, an 8.
I'd probably give him a 5 just for flexibility. I felt like he could have been a little more flexible in his worm, but I can't do that. So who am I to judge?
Oh man, it feels good to not have a stressful press conference and not have to awkwardly ask them if the pressure is getting towards them. That is it for the inaugural edition of Overall with Andrew Jones on the Believe Network. Tune in for the next episode of the most exciting, most entertaining, and most fun audio show that you will hear anywhere in the world. Until then, God bless, stay well, and I'm out of 5,000.
Clutch, not shaking with clutch and press the situation. Clutch, 23 Jordan. Clutch, championship occasion.